So let's make a wireframe for our web page. So we're going to use this more or less as a guide when we go to do the next processes. You'll see it'll be super helpful in that regard. And it's just easier in general to try and make a wireframe slash mockup of the web page sort of digitally or even drawn than to try and just go right into writing our code. It's just simpler. And it makes things easier. So what we're going to do is I'm going to download a template, and then I'm going to use that in order to lay out my grid. So I already kind of mentioned it earlier, but if you go up to the 960.gs, you want to click the big old download button, and that's going to download the 960 grid system. Just go ahead and click extract all, or you might have to, if it just shows up in the downloads, click up there, go to the folder, and then you can just hit extract. I'm just going to close out of this one. You hit extract, and then it will extract the files, and then you'll have a whole bunch of different things. Okay, so this is actually made for their system, the 960 grid system, which we're not doing, but because they have this like CSS sheet and stuff that you would assign. We're going to be using Bootstrap. However, I do find the template useful, so we're going to actually be using their templates. So if there's a program in here that you like to use instead, you could use those. You don't have to do this necessarily inside of Photoshop. Or Photopea, which is just a Photoshop clone. I'm obviously going to be using the Photoshop one. Okay, so if you have Photoshop, feel free to follow along with Photoshop. It'll probably be easier and better, but I don't want to make all you guys have to purchase the Adobe Creative Cloud. So I try to do things as free as possible. All right. So now what we're going to do is go back to Photopea, and we're going to head and we're going to click Open from Computer. And what I want you to do is go to that grid system. You want to go to Templates. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Photoshop. And then I want to grab the 12 grid. So you notice I have 12, 16, and 24. Generally speaking, 12 is the best way to go. It's just easier. Otherwise, these become really small. So I like using 12. We'll hit open. And voila. Now inside of here, what you'll see, the big thing really that it comes with is the fact that it has the overlay here of the color bars. So that makes things a little bit easier. And it also has these guides. So you'll see, don't do this, I'm just showing you. When I go to draw things, you'll see it'll snap to each one of these columns. And that makes it easier for trying to draw out my boxes, okay? So if for some reason you don't want to see this, you can just click that off or on. And if at some point later on, you're probably going to want to not see the guides, you just go to view and just turn off extras, and that will get rid of the guides, okay? So when you need to just see it as a whole, you want to do that. But you are generally going to want you might not want this one on, but you're definitely going to want the guides on, so that way you can see what you're working with. So I'm going to try and do this in layers. What we're going to do is we're going to do a general layout of what we think the web page should look like, and then we'll go from there. So first things first, I'm going to use just a bunch of these. I'm going to use the rectangle tool. So if that one's, it might be on ellipse, whatever one it's on, just hold this down, and then the other ones will pop up. I'm going to choose rectangular or rectangle. I don't know why I said rectangular. For the fill, let's just go ahead and I'm just going to make it, so I'm going to click on this fill, and then, come on. And then if you click on this, it'll open up the color picker here, and I'm just going to go for like default gray. So right here it says HSB. I'm just going to go ahead and put 50%. That way it's literally 50% gray, okay? And then we'll hit okay. For stroke, I'm going to choose none. So if you have something in here, just choose this. There are other options as well, but just choose none. And that way what we'll do is we're just going to draw blocks. And then as we draw blocks, apparently that shape is still there. As we draw blocks, it will, they'll show up, okay? And we're just going to label them and group them, and then you'll see, and we're going to use that as a basis to do the next part. Okay, so go ahead and have background selected, and then that way we'll stay underneath this. So what I want to do is I'm just going to draw my nav bar up on top. So I'm going to scroll in by holding holding Alt and scrolling in with my scroll wheel. You can also, where's the zoom in? There's also the zoom tool here. So if you just click on this, you can click, and then if you hold Alt, you'll notice that it changes it into a minus, and click. So that's another way of doing it. But I'm just going to hold Alt and scroll. The Control plus and minus doesn't work like it normally does for most. Oh, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes what it'll do is it'll try to zoom into the whole page. So anyway, let's zoom in a little bit just so I get this more on the page. Good. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my rectangle tool. And what I want to do is I'm going to hover over here. I'm going to try and get to the corner. And I want this to go all the way to the edges. So the way this is representing these little columns is that this is a column and this is the gutter. The gutter is the space in between. So imagine that you have a paragraph. This would be a really tight paragraph. But I might have a column that goes across into this one. So, and then that would be one paragraph of text. And then this would be the gutter between that paragraph of text and the next one. Or you can have a picture. But you always want to, you never want to cut into a column like that. This should always be, it should be on either side of this. You can cut across because you're going to make it go across two columns, but you never go into the gutter. You can go across the gutter and past to the next gutter, but not in it. Okay, and for some reason that went back to that color. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to do my nav bar. I'm just picturing that going all the way across the top, so I'm just going to click and drag. And we're going to like that, and boom. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and rename this by double-clicking on this, and we'll just call this nav bar, so that way I know what that is. Next, underneath that, I'm picturing having a slider or a carousel, slideshow, basically, and we're going to put that underneath this. So I'm just going to go ahead, and we're going to start up here. I'm going to click and drag, and let's have that go, so 2 columns in to 2 columns out, and I'll picture it being like that. Okay. Now, if for some reason you're like, oh man, I'm bad at, I want like this. If you need to adjust the size of it, you can go here. Like if you already drew it, you can go to this tool, the select tool, and then just turn on transform controls. Just click that on, and then you should be able to move it. Now, by default, it's going to want to do it proportionately. So you have to hold shift while you do it, and then it won't do it proportionally. Most of the time you want things to be proportionate, but in this case, we're drawing boxes, so we don't. Okay. Also, just be aware, if I try to do it here, watch what's going to happen. Oh, it's doing it now. Sometimes what'll happen is it'll try to move the guides. If that happens, just move this over to the side so it's not over top of a guide, and then you should be able to move it. So there we go. Let's rename this one, and we're going to call this a slider. Okay, that'll be like our call to action, our big, whatever we're selling kind of thing. Then underneath that, it might be good to have some we'll call them like cards, basically, like so we're going to again go to the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw one here, and we'll go across to, let's see, it's 2 columns. Let's try 3 columns. Is that how many I want to do? Like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the select tool, and I'm just going to make sure this kind of goes up against that. Okay, and just use the arrow keys to make that gap go away. Okay, so there's one, and let's just call this a card. So basically, a card would be like it would have an image and then some text underneath it, maybe a button that you click on to go to like these could each be an article, something like that. So I'm gonna have this one go across 3, and I just want to duplicate this to make the other ones. We could do this a couple different ways. You could do Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V. You could also, which I'm a big fan of doing this, if you hold Alt and click and drag, it will make a duplicate. So I'm just going to go like that. And I'm going to hold Alt, click, and drag to make a duplicate. So if you look, you can see this is not exactly what I was hoping for. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to select, I have this one selected. I'm going to hold Shift, click, hold Shift, click, and I'm going to drag these back this way. Good. And then I'm going to take this one. I'm going to hold Alt and click and drag. So we'll do 4 that are each 3 columns, because the total is 12 columns, right? So let's move this up. All right. So I've got card, card copy, card copy, card copy. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I want to put these all as like one group because they're kind of like each a thing, sort of. So I'm gonna select this layer. I'm going to hold Shift, click on this layer. You could also just do it down here, and then we're going to make a folder. You just click on this. Okay, and I'm going to double click on that folder and call this cards. Okay, so we have a nav bar, slider, and cards. All right, let's go ahead and in the slider, well, let's go ahead and make the slider, and we'll just call this, is that in it? Let me see. Oh no, see, it didn't go in it. So if you don't have something selected and you click on the folder, it will make a folder, or not. I don't know how to do it. Folder. Okay, but you can just click and drag this into it, and now it will be the folder. So we're just going to call this slider again. You'll see why we're going to put everything in folders, because it'll make things easier. Because what we're going to do rename this one, just call this the nav bar. Because what we're going to do is we're going to replace these with other content. I'm just doing placeholders for my placeholders. Get in there, you dirty dog. There it goes. Okay. So I got nav bar, slider, and we got our cards. Let's just continue on, and we'll do some other things as well. So let's go ahead and, again, grab the rectangle tool. And I'm going to click, and I'm going to have this go across, let's say, 6. I'm going to have it go halfway, like so. Okay. That looks okay. And then just to make this easier, I'm just going to, let's go ahead and rename it first. And we'll call this, I don't know, article. Let's call it article. Okay. Go to the select tool. I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to click and drag this across and put it over there. Actually, I'll show you the other way of doing this too. So did I already duplicate it? Yeah. So the other way of doing it is just select it and do Control C, Control V. And you'll see it'll make a duplicate. It's right on top of the other one, so you don't see it, but it is there. And then we'll just pull this over. And I think this one's slightly off. And this one is... Oh, they're all slightly off. I did a bad job of that. Look at this. Okay, so, oops, didn't mean to do that. Hang on. To move around, you can hold the middle mouse button, click and drag. It's supposed to be spacebar, but I'm not sure if it works. You can also just click on the hand tool here, back here. So I apparently did. So see what I'm saying about the thing not wanting to be that. So I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna fix these real quick. I didn't notice that these were not. Oh, those look fine. Okay, so I didn't notice that those were not right before. So up arrow. Okay. And then we'll take this guy, oops, and we will up arrow, take this one, and let's go like that. And there we go. Okay. And then let's back this up a little bit. And then the last thing I'm going to want to do, and let's go ahead and grab both of these, and we'll just put these in a folder. Just call this like articles. Okay. I'm going to collapse this one, just hitting the twirly. And then let's make one more thing, and that'll just be our footer. So I'm just going to, again, make another block. And I'm going to have this, maybe we'll just have this go, let's say, to this inside here. I don't need it to go all the way across. So we'll go like this. And so we'll go 2 in again, like so. And we'll call that our footer. Okay. And then again, I'm just going to take it and put that in a folder and call it footer again. All right. Boom. And let's make sure that's in there by just dragging it onto it, and we'll collapse it. Okay. So in a real rough sense, I'm going to turn this one off, and we're going to go to view, and we're going to turn extras off. In a real rough sense, you can kind of see that we have our, basically a sort of layout, a little bit off. We have whatever. So we have a general layout of what our page looks like. So we have the thing here, but obviously it doesn't look like much. It looks just like basically blocks. So what we're going to do in the next video, the next thing is I'm just going to go ahead and kind of actually put like some text in here, some placeholder stuff, and sort of fill it in. And we can do it a little bit easier by just basically putting, this should go underneath that one. There you go. By putting our stuff inside of each one of these folders. That way it's just a little more organized.